December 20th, 1968. A young couple went out on their very first date. They wanted privacy, so they drove out toward Lake Herman in California. In the car were 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen and 17-year-old David Faraday. They had no idea someone was following them. Just as they parked near Lake Herman, another car pulled up behind them. A man stepped out and ordered them to get out of their car. When they refused, he fired a shot at one of the rear tires to scare them. Terrified, David and Betty jumped out and tried to run. But the man shot them both. David was shot in the head. Betty was hit 5 times in the back. After that, the killer fled the scene. That brutal night marked the beginning of the infamous search for a serial killer. Yes, we're talking about the Zodiac Killer. Welcome back to another video from Sofia Verse. The Zodiac Killer was one of the most terrifying serial killers of the 20th century. Between the 1960s and 70s, he spread fear across San Francisco. He used to send letters to newspapers and the police. He bragged about his murders and even sent puzzles to be solved. After his first 2 murders, he stayed silent for about 6 months. Then he struck again. It was July 4th, 1969, Independence Day in the US. 18-year-old Darlene Ferrin and 16-year-old Michael Mageau went out to get fireworks. They noticed a strange car following them. To throw it off, they pulled into the parking lot at Blue Rock Springs Park. But the car followed them into the lot. At first, the driver parked beside them, then suddenly backed up and drove away. Darlene and Michael thought the danger had passed. But just moments later, the car returned. This time, it blocked their car from behind. A man stepped out with a powerful flashlight in his hand. He shined it right in their faces. At first, they thought it was a police officer, but then without warning, he started shooting. He got back in his car and drove off. Darlene died instantly. Michael survived, though badly wounded. A few minutes later, 3 nearby kids called the police. Michael had seen the killer's face and helped police create a sketch. The most shocking part came later that night. At 12:04 a.m., an anonymous call was made to the Vallejo Police Department. The caller didn't say anything and quickly hung up. It was the very first phone call from the Zodiac Killer. A month later, on August 1st, 1969, the Zodiac sent letters to 3 different newspapers. He claimed responsibility for the Lake Herman and Blue Rock Springs murders. He shared details only the police would know, like what kind of bullets were used, how many shots were fired, and what the victims were wearing. Along with the letters, he sent a coded message. He demanded that it be published in the newspaper the next day. Or else he threatened to kill again. The cipher was sent to intelligence agencies, but no one could crack it. However, the next day, a couple from San Francisco managed to solve it. The message read,
I like killing because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, because man is the most dangerous animal of all to kill.
He also wrote that he believed in the afterlife, and that the people he killed would become his slaves in the next world. After those letters, things went quiet for about 2 months. But then the Zodiac came back. On September 27th, 1969, a college couple was having a picnic by Lake Berryessa. Their names were Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. They noticed a man walking toward them. He wore a black hood with the Zodiac symbol on it. When he got close, he pulled out a gun and demanded money and car keys. Brian gave him 75 cents and the keys. Then the man tied up both of them with rope. After that, he pulled out a knife and stabbed them repeatedly. Thinking they were dead, he walked back to their car. He wrote a message on their car door with the time, date, and type of weapon he used. A fisherman found the couple badly wounded but still breathing. They were rushed to the hospital. Cecilia didn't survive, but Brian lived and told police everything. Just like before, the Zodiac called the police that evening at 7:40 p.m. and confessed. Police started noticing a pattern. First, he targeted only young couples. Second, he attacked on weekends or around holidays. Third, the attacks happened in darkness or low light. Fourth, he bragged about the murders, like he was challenging the authorities. Fifth, most murders happened at known dating spots. Sixth, many of them took place in or near cars. And seventh, most scenes were close to water. These patterns suggested that maybe the Zodiac had a deep hatred for love. Or maybe women, since the girls died more often than the boys. But the Zodiac's next move would break his own pattern. Just 2 weeks later, on October 11th, 1969, he hailed a cab driven by Paul Stein. He asked to be taken to Maple Street in Presidio Heights. When they reached the destination, the killer waited until the car stopped, then shot Paul at point-blank range. He climbed into the front seat and cut off a piece of Paul's shirt. Two kids saw the whole thing from a second-floor window. They immediately called the police. Officers arrived quickly and even crossed paths with the killer, who was walking away. But they were looking for a black suspect, so they didn't pay much attention to him. They asked if he saw anything. The Zodiac lied and said someone had run into the next alley waving a gun, so the police ran in that direction. If they had just looked closer, they might have seen the blood on his jacket. But once again, the Zodiac escaped. Luckily, police recovered fingerprints from Paul's cab. Days later, the Zodiac sent more letters to the newspapers. He described Paul Stine's murder in exact detail, and even included the piece of his shirt as proof. This time, he threatened to attack a school bus. The threat caused widespread panic. Police started tailing every school bus in the area for weeks, but no attack ever happened. Using the kid's witness account, police created a new sketch of the Zodiac. It was spread to every taxi driver in the area. But the Zodiac was already thinking of new tricks. 10 days after killing the taxi driver, on October 22, 1969, he called the Oakland Police Department. He said he wanted to talk to attorney Melvin Belli on live TV. The show aired early that day. After a few false calls, the Zodiac finally called in and said his name was Sam. He made 35 calls during the show, though only 12 were aired. When asked questions, his answers were strange and confusing. But later it turned out that the caller wasn't the real Zodiac. People familiar with his voice confirmed it was someone else. Investigators found that the call came from a mental patient at Napa State Hospital. Weeks later, 2 more letters arrived at the newspapers. One included another coded cipher the Zodiac wanted published. This new cipher was far harder than the first one, and it stayed unsolved for over 50 years. It wasn't until 2020 that 3 codebreakers finally cracked it using software. It didn't reveal much about the Zodiac himself, but it did deny the TV caller, saying, "That guy on TV wasn't me." However, the accompanying letter did offer a new clue. He claimed he had built a bomb and kept it in his basement. That clue told police something important. If he had a basement, he likely lived in a house, not an apartment. And basements weren't very common in the Bay Area. So maybe, just maybe, he lived outside the Bay Area. That one detail might have been a mistake on his part. 5 months later, on March 22, 1970, he tried to kidnap a woman named Kathleen Johns on Highway 132. Thankfully, she escaped. When shown the Zodiac sketch, she recognized him immediately. Over the next 4 years, the Zodiac continued sending letters and ciphers. Some described murders, while others were just movie reviews. One letter even gave the supposed location of a bomb, but police found nothing there. His last letter arrived on January 30th, 1974. He claimed his score was Me 37 SFPD 0, but police believed he was exaggerating. They could only link him definitively to 5 murders. The CIA and other law enforcement agencies studied his methods and psychology deeply. They concluded he wasn't just some random person. He had military-level knowledge. The footprints at crime scenes matched shoes used in the military, and his expertise in cryptology likely came from military training. With all of America afraid of the Zodiac and the media giving him constant attention, many people began falsely claiming they were the killer. This made the real Zodiac even harder to catch. At first, police suspected a man named Arthur Lee Allen. He had a military background and owned a watch with the Zodiac logo, but his handwriting and fingerprints didn't match. He died in 1992. Another suspect was Richard Gaikowski, who resembled the Zodiac sketch. But again, no match on prints or handwriting. In total, police investigated around 50 suspects. None were a perfect match. Despite all the attention, the Zodiac killer's identity remains a mystery. Who was he? Why did he murder so many people? And was that afterlife talk just a cover for something more sinister? We hope you enjoyed this chilling video from Sofia TV. Thanks so much for your love and support. We'll see you in the next one.